everybody. Welcome to part 2 of the Battle of the Birds. Where did we get up to yesterday? Oh, I remember. The king's son and his wife were in their beautiful castle with their 7-year-old son, and who should come marching down the road but the giant. And the king's son had told his wife now the deal that he made with that giant, that he was having to hand over his son. "We can't give over our only son to this giant," she said. And they came up with quite a terrible plan, actually. What a mean thing to do. They ran down to the kitchens, and there was the 7-year-old son of the castle cook. And they grabbed him, brought him upstairs, dressed him in fine clothes, took him down to the gate of the castle, opened the portcullis, opened the drawbridge, and pushed him out. "There you go, giant. Take our only son, if you must." And the giant took the boy in his hand, put him up on his shoulder, and marched off into the distance. And he'd gone some way before he turned to the boy on his shoulder, and the giant took a golden spoon from his pocket and said, "If I were to give the spoon to your father, what would he do with it?" The boy looked at the spoon and said, "Well, he would use that spoon to stir the big pot of stew down in the castle kitchens as he was cooking for the king." And the giant's eyes grew fire red. "You're not the king's son, you're the cook's son," he said. He snatched the boy up, carried him all the way back to the castle. "King's son, open the door. Take this boy back. He's not your son. He's the child of your cook. I will not be tricked." "Oh," said the queen. "What shall we do?" The king's son looked around. "What about our butler?" They have a butler, like a servant who brings them everything. He has a son who's about the same age. And they grabbed the son of the butler, dressed him up in fine clothes, pushed him out over the drawbridge. "There you go, giant. That's really he really is our son. Please take him," and off you go. And they were not gone long before the giant took out the spoon. "If I were to give this spoon to your father, what would he do with it?" And the young boy looked down from the shoulder at the spoon, and he said, "Why, he would use the spoon to spoon out the stew from the silver pot that would lay on the table onto the king's golden plates." The giant knew right away. He said, "You're not the son of the king. You're the son of the butler." And he grabbed the boy and took him all the way back and dumped him down on the drawbridge and made him go back inside. "I will not be tricked, king's son," he said. "Send out your boy." And finally, the king's son and his wife knew they had no choice, and reluctantly and sadly, they sent their child out over the drawbridge, and off he went with the giant. And he lived with that giant for many years until he became a young man. And the giant had 3 daughters, and they were all lovely daughters. And but the young boy, he started to fall in love with the youngest one. Okay, the other 2 were also nice, but his heart belonged to the youngest one. And one day he said to the giant, he never called him father, he just called him giant. Okay, "Giant, yes, it is time I was married." "I was thinking the same thing," said the giant. And at that, the young boy's heart began to go a bit faster as he was hoping that good news was coming his way. "Obviously, you can't marry the youngest daughter," said the giant. "She's promised to the son of the king of Greentown. But you can marry from the other 2. And at that, the young boy said, "Well, I don't really want to. My heart belongs to the youngest daughter." And at that, the giant became really angry, and he said, "Well, if you must marry her first, you must prove yourself. Come with me." And he grabbed the boy by the neck and pulled him out to the cow shed, where all the cows were inside there. And as you can imagine, the floor of the cow shed was all covered in muck and dirt and straw. It was really filthy. And the giant said to the young boy, I will come back here in the evening. And you see this? And out of his pocket he took a golden apple. If I roll this golden apple from one end of the cow byre to the other, if I pick it up and see any dirt on the apple, you may not marry my youngest daughter. And with that he stomped off. Well, the young boy took out a brush and a big pitchfork and various things, and he started to clean out the cow stable, or cow byre as it's called. And it was a hopeless task. It was just too dirty. He thought he's never going to manage it. And suddenly there at his side was the youngest daughter. And she said, go outside and lie down under the tree in the sun and have a rest, because this is hard work that you're doing. I can't do that. I've got to clean this place, otherwise we can never be Just go and do it. Trust me. And he went off and he lay under the tree. When he woke up, he went out to the cow byre, and it was incredibly clean. It was completely clean. There was no sign of dirt anywhere. Or the daughter, she was also gone. And the giant came back. Right, let's see what you've done to the mucky old bat. And he looked inside. He saw how clean it was. And he took the golden apple and he rolled it from one end of the byre all the way to the other. Picked it up looking for any sign of dirt on there. There was none. It was completely clean. And the young boy said, see, I cleaned it. And the giant looked him in the eye and said, well, somebody cleaned it. And the young boy said under his breath, yeah, it wasn't you, was it? Well, I told you there was more than one task. There's also a second task. Tomorrow we'll continue with task number 2. So the next day the boy was taken out. The giant made him look up at the roof of the byre. And the roof was in bad condition. It was one of those straw roofs, a thatched roof. And the giant said, this is what you're going to do. Take off all the straw and replace it with feathers. You have to make a feather roof. But no 2 feathers on the roof can be the same colour. They must all be different colours. If you have 2 feathers the same colour, you've failed. And with that he stomped off. And the young boy took up his bow and arrow, and he went out to try and shoot some birds with his bow and arrow so that he could make the feathered roof. You can imagine how many feathers he would need, right? A lot. And after a long time, the youngest daughter came up and he told her his problem, and he'd managed to catch 2 birds, and they were both blackbirds. And he said, look, they're the same colour. It's never going to work. And she said, go and lay down under the tree in the sunlight. Don't worry about it. Be fine. I can't go into the... Then he remembered what happened the day before, and he thought, well, maybe, let's see. So he went off and he lay under the tree. When he woke up, there was the roof, like a multicoloured, like a kaleidoscope of colour. All birds' feathers. The daughter was gone. The giant came stomping up. He glared at the coloured feathers. Couldn't believe it. And the young boy said, see, I did it. No 2 feathers the same. And the giant looked at him for a long time and then said, well, somebody did it. And the young boy said under his breath, yeah, it wasn't you though, was it? Well, there's a 3rd task. And the young boy said, I knew there would be a 3rd task. There's always a 3rd task. And it's always the worst. Tomorrow, you'll see what that task entails, what you have to do. So the following day, the giant met the young boy out in the field, took him over to the woods. And it was a giant wood full of gigantic trees. And the tallest tree of all was a pine tree that went straight up, hundreds and hundreds of meters up into the sky. And the giant said, at the top of that tree, there's a nest, a magpie nest. And in that nest, there's 5 eggs. You must climb up and bring me all 5 eggs back down again. Then you've completed the tasks. And the young boy looked up at the tree. It was a massive tree with one of those, the trunk was so big you couldn't hang on to it. It was like a huge, huge trunk of the tree. And the very first branch sticking out was already hundreds of meters up. It was just tree trunk for a long way up before you got to branches that you could climb on. And he stood there, he tried, and every time he climbed up, he was slipping down, and he's cutting his hands and scratching his knees and rubbing his face against it by accident, and there was blood everywhere, and it was really painful. The giant had gone off somewhere, chuckling to himself. At which point, of course, the daughter arrived, and she asked him to do something. At first, he couldn't believe what she was saying, but he trusted his instincts to go along with her plan. This is what she told him. She said, "Follow me down to the stream." There was a little stream nearby. And she said, "You must turn away from me while I lie in the water. You must count backwards from 100. And then when you turn round, I shall be different." Different? How do you mean different? You will see in the water nothing except my bones. I will turn to just bones. He's like, "I don't want you to turn to bones. I want you to be alive. You have to trust me. I will be brought back to life when you return my bones to the stream. I'll go into the water, I'll turn to bones, gather up all of my bones, take them to the tree, and press them onto the tree trunk. They will stick, as if by magic. And you can use those bones to climb up the first part of the tree trunk, all the way up to the branches. Get the eggs. When you come down again, you must touch every bone on the way down with your foot, because when you touch it, it will unstick and you'll be able to take the bones off again. Do not leave any bones stuck to the tree. You must make sure you get all of those bones, gather them up, lay them in the stream, turn your back to me, count backwards from 100. When you turn around, I shall be there as I am now." Well, he was quite horrified by this idea, but he did it. She lay in the stream, he turned around, 100, 99, 98, 97, all the way back, 39, 38, all the way down, 3, 2, 1, 0. And he turned around, and there in the stream were just the bones. And he gathered up all the bones, and he took them to the tree, put them on the tree, and they stuck. And he used the bones to climb up, and it was a funny feeling holding onto the bones. He got up, there was the nest. He took out the eggs, carefully put them in his pocket, climbed down, making sure to touch all of the bones on the way down and gather all the bones. He put the bones back into the stream, turned his back, 100, 99, 98, 97, 50, 49, 40, all the way back, 3, 2, 1, 0. And there she was, lying in the stream. She got out of the stream. And she checked everything. She looked around. And there, missing from one of her hands, was a little finger. It was gone. And when they looked to the tree, there on the tree was a tiny bone. He had missed one. The finger was gone. And she was a little bit annoyed at that. "You've forgotten a bone. I'm missing a finger." And he said, "I'm so sorry. Can we do it now? Can I go?" "No, it's too late now. I am to be like this for the rest of my life." And with that, they went back to the castle and presented the eggs to the giant, who accepted them grudgingly. That means like, "Very well then. Tomorrow there shall be a wedding." Okay, so in the next part of the story, I'll tell you what happens at the wedding in the story of the Battle of the Birds. I hope you enjoyed it.